You know, that door doesn't hang straight.
Too damn bad!
Well, excuse me.
Who knew that a movie about a group of kids who are forced to dig holes all throughout this dry land of Camp Green Lake to build character would be this much fun? It's been a while since I've seen this movie, so I had a blast revisiting this childhood classic. This right here is, in my opinion, the best book to movie adaptation, and I know that might be a blasphemous thing to say, especially to those of you who are fans of Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and especially Percy Jackson.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Okay, I'm just kidding with the last part, although I am wishing for the best with that upcoming series on Disney+, but that's besides the point. I truly do believe that this... Whoa. I truly do believe that this adaptation of Holes is the best book-to-movie adaptation ever made. I read Holes a long time ago, when I was in elementary school or maybe middle school. It's been too long. But I just remember loving this story and the movie as a kid. A year or two ago, I was gifted a Kindle by my girlfriend, and since then I have read a total of, I want to say, maybe 3 books? Holes obviously being one of them. This original story holds up so well, and right as soon as I finished reading this masterpiece of a tale, I decided to plop down on the sofa and watch as these pages came to life. What a movie. Despite some minor differences, mainly with the appearance of the character of Stanley Yelnats IV, this is also probably the most accurate book-to-movie adaptation as well. The movie takes its time to tell the story exactly how the book gets laid out, but if Holes was able to achieve this feat being a smaller movie with a smaller budget, why can't other bigger series seem to figure it out? Well, I would assume it's not that easy, and I'm sure Holes had a lot of factors that went its way. So that being said, in this video, I want to take a look at why I think this was such a good adaptation, and why I just love this movie overall. Welcome to the channel, I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. The first point I want to get at is that this isn't some multi-series, arduous journey to travel across the world in order to slay the Warden. There is no fellowship where Kissing Kate Barlow and Sam the Onion Man team up with the Chosen One Stanley Yelnats IV and the Psychic Zero. There's no one hole to rule them all. Stanley is just a kid who was at the wrong place at the wrong time, with a no-good, dirty rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather. His journey pretty much goes from one hole to the other with a slight detour to the thumb of God, but nothing major, right? The story is relatively contained into a singular location with shots from other places here and there, but allowing the story to be focused more on the characters and less on the vast varieties and locations allow for a tighter movie. Not to mention Camp Green Lake feels like another character in and of itself. It's also not that often the writer of the novel will be the one to write the screenplay of the movie, but in this case that's exactly what happens. I can imagine writing a screenplay is very different from writing a book, but Louis Sachar, or Sacker, however you pronounce it, was able to take on the challenge and was fortunate enough to have the director, Andrew Davis, value his opinion above all else. Lewis's books were primarily read in school by children, but he knew that his story had themes and ideas that adults can resonate with as well. That's why Lewis and Andy treated this movie as an adult film, so that they don't ruin the complexity of the original story. It's clear the movie is all the better for it. Louis Sachar was the man behind many wonderful novels: Holes, Sideways Stories from Wayside School, Dogs Don't Tell Jokes, and There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom. I used to read these books so much as a kid, and the fact that he was also a huge factor in the making of this movie puts him up there alongside Roald Dahl, Rick Riordan, J.R.R. Tolkien, and others as GOAT authors in my childhood. This story also works well as a movie because it's really 3 mini stories in one that ties and connects together at the very end. We have the main plot with Stanley Yelnats IV. He's a misunderstood kid who gets arrested due to being in the wrong place at the wrong time. After an arduous trial, he gets forced to dig holes in a camp with no water, insane camp counselors, and yellow-spotted lizards. We then have the side plot with Miss Catherine Barlow, a lonely teacher who falls in love with a simple onion seller named Sam, and when she needed Sam the most, he vanished. This causes her to lose all sense of sanity and become the legendary outlaw, Kissing Kate Barlow. We also have the side plot with Elia Yelnats, a lonely man who wants to marry this beautiful girl, and to win over her father, he starts carrying and feeding a pig up the mountain for days on end. After failing to do the promise he set with Madame Zeroni, he and his future generation gets cursed. These are three relatively simple stories that seem rather different from each other, but the beauty of this book and movie are how they all weave through each other to become one overarching narrative that spans decades. Oh, and did I forget to mention that Stanley's dad, Stanley, is trying to create a spray that would remove foot odor from shoes? Oh, please let this be real. I was quite surprised when I went to watch this movie again to find out that I would be seeing Jon Voight, Tim Blake Nelson, Sigourney Weaver, Henry Winkler, and of course Shia LaBeouf in this movie. The performances in this movie are fantastic. They're also quite campy and cheesy and full of heart. These actors took less pay than they normally would for their roles, and you can tell they were in it for the story. Having such big name actors in a seemingly children's movie also allows more people to take the movie more seriously. And after watching it, you definitely realize that there is more to this movie than meets the eye. It also came to my attention that Holes was filmed like an indie movie. They just had the financial backing of a major studio like Disney, which to my knowledge is quite rare, and what I'm trying to say is there weren't really any suits on set interfering with the overall project. There wasn't a clash with director and studio, they just let them make the movie they felt they wanted to make. And finally, the reason I love this movie so much is due to how heartwarming and satisfying it is. Seeing all of these interwoven plot threads come together in the final culmination of seeing this dry camp being filled with rain, as we see the luck of this boy cursed with his no good, dirty rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather be lifted. Another reason is the continuity in this movie. Something as simple as Sam mentioning how the lizards avoid the onions in a one-off line, and then seeing Stanley and Zero avoid getting bit in the hole due to them reeking of onions is such good continuity that it adds to the whole experience. And quite possibly the best part of this movie is seeing the brotherhood between Stanley and Hector. The way they rely on each other to make it to God's thumb, and ultimately put an end to the Warden's regime has me shedding some real grown man tears. Wait, maybe this is like Lord of the Rings. And then there's the quotes. Oh, the quotes. From
Fix that.
to
I told you I was on the brink of no stink.
and finally,
Too damn bad!
this movie has everything. Romance, action, horror, the Wild West, friendship, a car crash, and redemption. All that's missing is some blue beams in the sky and maybe the multiverse, but Holes is a fantastic film that showcases fate and destiny and the power of friendship to overcome all odds. It's one that I wasn't expecting to hold up, not just in entertainment value, but in quality as well. There aren't too many movies like this nowadays, and that's a shame. It's been 20 years since this movie came out, and I can see it still being a masterpiece 20 years later. Just please don't reboot this. I can imagine adapting a book to a movie would be pretty difficult. It's why there are such few success stories when it comes to proper adaptations of these series. That's why I think the attempt by Andrew Davis and Louis Akar is like lightning in a bottle. Or I guess to put it more aptly, like rain at Camp Green Lake. Let me know down below what your favorite book to movie adaptation is and what book you also want to see get adapted. My answer would be The Ranger's Apprentice, as I used to love that series as a kid. Oh, and also please like and subscribe as well, as it's very helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.